So actually when I first got my period, I was 13. I was a little later than most of my peers, but my mom was actually overseas, and I was home with my dad. Um, and for like the first few days, like I didn't know that I had actually gotten my period because no one told me what your period's supposed to look like. And it was more brown than like reddish. Because when I like imagined a period when I was 13, I was like, oh, it's just blood. Which is not the case. And I was like, there's like something wrong. Um, but then after a few days, I was like, oh, I got my period. And like luckily, like I knew where like my mom like kept the pads and everything. Um, I don't even know if I told her after I got my first period. Like all of this was like very isolating almost. I think I had like my friends with me, of course, and like they understood. Um, but like at home, it was just like kind of the secret. I didn't really tell my dad either, I don't think, because it was like super awkward. My dad and I never talked about stuff like that. Um, and I didn't know how to use a tampon until like I was 16, and like even then like I had to figure it out for myself. And I used to be a competitive swimmer, so like I had to figure that out. Anyways, I didn't know how to use tampons, so I had to like figure that out myself. Um, and like that was a whole process, right? Because like no one can really easily like tell you verbally. Like you really just have to like I spent so long in this like bathroom stall like trying to figure it out. And once I figured it out, I was like, wow, this is so much better than just like chafing every like every week. And then of course like there's that whole thing that's like you shouldn't use like the always pad brands because like a lot of them is plastic and like you might get like ovarian cancer or something. And there's just like there's so many products that like you have to like learn to avoid, and no one tells you any of this. Like no one tells you what you should be using, no one tells you what you should expect. You have to go and find everything out on your own, and it is so frustrating. And like once you get like the groove of it, you kind of forget how awful it was initially to like kind of navigate like through all of this yourself, because you learn that it's like something you should be ashamed of, and you learn that it's something that you need to get under control yourself. um and there's just so much to navigate. But with my IUD now, my periods are a lot lighter. But before, I like almost went to a gyno again because like there was a possibility that I had endometriosis because of like how awful my periods were. And like overnight pads weren't holding me for like more than like 3 hours, which was like insane. And like when I woke up, like I would have blood like all the way down my legs, which is terrible and terrifying. Um, but I was able to kind of like help with that with like menstrual cups, which you never learn about. Um, and like they're so comfortable, like you can leave them in for 12 hours, you can go swimming with them, you can do whatever. And like it's just so much you have to navigate by yourself. It's so frustrating. And like now that I know all of this, I wish I could share it with like every young person with a vulva, right? And like just be like, hey, like here's what I learned. I don't want you to go through the same journey I did. Like don't be like afraid to speak out on it. Like don't be afraid to ask questions. And like even with my friends now, like I talk about this stuff freely now because I can, and like I've learned more now. Um, and I there's power in numbers, and I think that that applies to like reproductive health care, because when we talk about it, we get to kind of fish out like mistreatment, or we get to fish out, hey, like maybe something is wrong, or like this is a universal experience. You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, I love talking about it now. I love talking about reproductive health. I love talking about sex, like masturbation, like all of it, because it's so important.